Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are doing well today, and in today's video we're going to go over some basic tips to help new and maybe even some seasoned players brush up on their movement skills. I made a video like this a few months back, but it needs to be updated and expanded upon, so that's what I'll be doing today. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So movement in Apex is probably one of the most important skills to learn and master. This game has the most fluid and smooth movement system in any game aside from the Titanfall games, but it's basically the same dev, so that makes sense. Poor movement will get you killed in this game, and it's actually one of the easiest ways to identify a cheater if you're not really sure. If you get beamed but you aren't sure, take a quick look at the spectator, and sometimes the movement can confirm it all. So now that we know how important movement is, let's get right into these tips. Tip number 1 is going to be bind jump to scroll. Okay guys, so in most of these tips, this will be something that will make everything a million times easier. If you don't want to, then that's your choice and that's fine, but I recommend it for one of these tips because it makes it significantly easier. But this is just kind of an intro tip. For the rest of them, I just wanted to throw it in there. Tip number 2, the Zipline Jump. So before Season 7, you used to be able to do this Zipline Jump all you wanted. I call it Zipline Dancing, and basically if you did it properly, it made you extremely difficult to hit on a zipline. However, now you can only jump 3 times before you get kicked off. But what you still can do is use a zipline to do a super jump and get some serious air to jump onto a building, a porch, anything really, just to avoid climbing. Because when you climb, it's very easy to get easy shots on you, and if you do the jump, it mitigates that climb time and you can be ready to fight as soon as you hit the roof. This is the tip I highly recommend the jump bound to scroll with. With spacebar, it honestly feels impossible, but whenever you have jump bound to scroll, every time you scroll, it's like a constant jump input, so you don't have to be so perfect with the timing. To perform this, just use jump as soon as you make contact with the zipline, and if done properly, it will send you very high up in the air. Tip number 3, meleeing the walls instead of the floor. Speaking of hitting things, previously you could melee the ground when falling to avoid the fall stun. This was patched out however, but you can still do this in some situations. If where you're falling has a wall, a pole, a tree, literally anything you can melee before hitting the ground, if you melee it, it will reset that fall and you will not take that fall stun. It's very effective in any situation since the fall stun can and will sometimes get you killed in certain situations. Tip number 4, circling the zipline. Also really quickly, we covered the zipline dance and how it got patched out, but you can still make yourself a hard target on the ziplines, but it's not as effective, but it will still help. When taking a zipline up or down, move your mouse in a 360 motion, not left or right because then you aren't really moving, but if you spin all the way around, it simply just makes you a little harder to hit. A simple tip, but I thought I'd include it just in case it was ever useful. Tip number 5, the Octane jump pad. So Octane recently got a buff to his jump pad, and I'm quickly going to cover the changes since he's definitely a movement character, and knowing how to use his jump pad properly will help a ton. Basically, when using the jump pad, if you want to go further, you should go into the jump crouched or sliding. This will send you further but arc you so you won't go as high. If height is the goal, then go into the jump standing or running, and this will send you higher but not as far. Tip number 6, Pathfinder Grapple Jump. With Pathfinder's Q, you can perform a pretty helpful move that will send you flying. Simply use the grapple, then as soon as a connection is made, hit your jump key and you should get launched into the air. This is great for, one example, a fuse ults and there's nothing of height to grapple onto. You can use the flat ground to propel yourself out without taking any damage with this trick. Tip number 7, sliding gives you momentum. As you've probably noticed, everyone in Apex slides around. They slide downhill, they slide before jumping, they slide just to slide. In Apex, sliding gives you a little bit more speed and momentum so you can make just slightly longer jumps. It's a little tip, but it's helpful in some situations when you just need to jump a little bit further. Tip number 8, wall jumping. Speaking of sliding, this next tip is for something that's useful sometimes, but it's honestly just more fun than anything else to do, and that's the wall jump. The wall jump is sort of situational. Like I said, it doesn't really help in most situations, but it's kind of fun to do, so I'm going to go over it because you never know. So basically this might be tricky at first, or you'll nail it on the first try and be pretty good at it. But what you want to do is slide up to a wall, or really anything that you won't climb up as soon as you make that connection, and as soon as you make contact with the wall, jump and it will propel you wherever you're looking. A fun thing to do in the game, but like I said, it's very rarely useful. So you'll probably notice there's one major tip here that's missing, and that's b-hopping. I didn't cover it because I personally don't b-hop, and I honestly don't know how to do it. If you want to learn how to b-hop, there's plenty of channels that'll be glad to show you. I just personally don't use it, and I don't find it that useful honestly, so yeah. But other than b-hopping, did I miss any tips? What tip do you think is the most helpful? Let me know in the comments below. Alright guys, that wraps up this movement guide. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I'll see all of you in the next video.